Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Betholkis, and this is Doom Patrol, Season 1, Episode 10, Hair Patrol. Welcome. It was only seems like a few hours ago that we were on the air talking to each other. And, it was actually. So there we go. Yeah, sorry I had to move this over to Saturday. Like I said, I wasn't feeling too good last night and didn't want to. Hey, Mork, your notification didn't lie this time. Nice. All right. So, and I've got the new microphone set up. Well, the new power supply to the microphone, I should say. You can't see any of that because it's down here below the curtains, where the pants aren't at. So there we go. So before we start here, spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the episode. If you haven't gone and seen it, go and see it. Come on back. This will be a video. You can comment down below in the comment section. Thank you, Viking Bitch, for the paddle. There we go. Get a little bit of water before I start on this. So, interesting episode. We get to find out a lot about Niles Calder finally. I mean, there were some questions that I had that were just bothering the shit out of me, and some of them got answered finally. Hey, Slurmy. Slurmy's got hi, Morks. Okay. I don't get this channel, but I thought I would pop in. Yeah, it's something you have to subscribe to, Slurmy, unfortunately. Yeah, you do need a gross alert on this one just at one point. Yeah. There's one gross scene out of the entire thing, and it was this, but that's the nature of the character. So we start off in a North Yukon territory in 1913. And for those of you who don't know what the Yukon is basically anything that was north of the United States. So that was Canada, Alaska, all that kind of stuff. They don't really specify what it is, where it is. It's just out in the wilderness north of the United States. And we see Niles Calder. And it's 1913, by the way, 1913. Niles Calder making notes in a journal, and he's working for the Bureau of Oddities for Washington. And Washington has its doubt about this bureau going on. And we see the crest for this Bureau of Oddities is the same as the Bureau of Normalcy, the one that Larry was a part of. So we get a couple of things answered on this one. And we see that Niles is not alone. He's got a buddy with him out there in the woods named Alistair. And Alistair is a hunter. He has a big gun with him, a rifle. And he's telling Alistair, you don't need that gun for what we're doing. I'm pretty sure whatever it is we're looking for is actually scared and isn't going to hurt us. And Alistair says, tell that about the Turks that were up here and disappeared. You know, what happened to them? And they kind of allude to that, these guys are gone. So something pretty horrible probably happened to them as well. So Niles ends up going away from the camp for a little bit to go and take a shit. Obviously, he's not feeling all that well. We kind of get the feeling that Niles is a little bit of a dandy, so it was what they used to call him, and not really equipped to go out into the wilderness on his own. So we see him out there, and it looks like he's got something wrong with his stomach. He might have had some of the food that I had last night, and that's probably what happened. Actually, it's set in 1913, Morks. Yes, that's what it said on the screen there. And as he's sitting there taking a crap, he hears some wolves howl, and he sees a wolf print in the snow, and he looks up, and there's a wolf staring at him and snarling at him. And just as this wolf is about to attack him, we hear a gunshot ring out, and Alistair has killed it, saved his life. And as he's thanking Alistair, another wolf comes out and just jumps on Alistair and just starts biting at his throat and his face. And what does Niles do? He runs. He runs as fast as he can, and he starts running down the hill. He trips. We see his legs snap. And he rolls down the hill, and he's got a really bad compound fracture where the bone's sticking out of the leg and everything. Kind of gross. And he kind of crawls over to a tree, and he's pleading with something. We see this giant thing come towards him. It's a giant, looks like a werewolf in a way, and it's walking on its hind legs. It walks up to him, and he's keeps pleading for it to wait. And then we cut to West Seneca, New York, 2019, and we see this guy living in his mom's basement. His name's Ernest, and his mom screams down to him that he needs to go and get more lean cuisine. And he says, "I don't take that in anymore as sustenance. I don't need that now." And she's saying, well, she needs it, and that he needs to go and go get some more, and that the keys are hanging by the door. And that's the end of it. And he keeps calling her name, Mom, 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 like a 3-year-old. She won't answer him back. So he's like, and he goes to the store. So we see Ernest walking down the aisle, throwing in some Cocoa Puffs and just a bunch of junk food. And he rounds the corner and sees this old guy with a beard, and he kind of stares at the beard and he salivates. We see him like kind of salivate, and then he says, "The canned peaches are in the next aisle, you old man." So he says and walks away. Kind of a weird thing. And so as he's checking out, the clerk doesn't look like a clerk. She's a little bit stiff, if you will. And as they're running things through, he's saying, "That's for my mom, and that's for me." And it's the preparation H as it's going through that's for him, because he sits down on the couch all the time. And the clerk says, "We know about your hemorrhoid cream uses." And this is part of the Bureau of Normalcy. So the Bureau of Normalcy is going to indoctrinate him because they've lost one of their agents in the search for Niles Calder. So they're activating the Beard Hunter, who is what Ernest is. He is known as the Beard Hunter. And she hands him a dossier that says classified, that pretty much has everything in there. And we see him run home and start suiting up. He's basically throwing everything in a bag. He's got nunchucks, some swords, a gas mask, trying to put on his suit, trying to squeeze into his suit. Really, that doesn't really work. Yeah, he was really proud of that hemorrhoid cream, Viking bitch. And he barely gets into his suit. So we go back to Niles in 1913, and he wakes up in the cave, and he's got some foul-smelling crap smeared on the break on his leg. And he like wipes it and puts to his nose, and he's disgusted by it. And we see him trying to crawl out of the cave. He hears this wolf kind of howl and sees a shadow of something down in the cave down there that's kind of howling about this. And he's trying to crawl his way out. And he makes it to some bodies that are frozen just outside of the cave there. And he notices it's the bodies of the Turkish hunters that have disappeared. So, yeah. And just before he realizes, he registers that horror, and then he gets dragged back into the cave. So we go back to the Beard Hunter, and he's arrived into the deserted town outside where Doom Manor is over there. And he sees the flyer. "Have you seen this chief?" That's floating around. It's blowing around in the breeze. And he grabs it, of course, and takes a look at it. And this takes place just during Jane Patrol, our last episode, when Cliff is getting ready to go Cliff goes into Jane's mind. And we find that this whole thing takes place while Cliff is inside Jane's mind. And this is what happened with Vic and and Rita while all this was going on, because they had nothing to do. They were just standing there. So it makes sense that we actually had something else going on while the 3 other members of the team were taking part in something else. So Niles wakes up again to a fire in the cave, and he's freezing. And he says he's very cold, and can he go? He sees a person tending the fire, and he asks if he can go towards the fire because he's freezing. And he crawls over, and as he grabs onto some furs because he's going to cover himself with the furs, the person gets up and angrily just kind of grunts at him and starts hitting him, and he's apologizing. I'm sorry. And basically curls into the fetal position. And we see this person tending the fire as a woman, but she's got like a beard as well. She's a bearded lady, pretty much. Kind of a weird thing going on there. And she grabs the furs from him and heads back to the fire. So we go back to Vic and Rita, and Vic fills in Rita about Danny the Street and says that Danny gave him a comic book. And he's trying to figure out what, of course, the comic means, because they were looking for a chief at the time, and that's what Danny gave them as their clue. And Rita says, "Let me take a look at this." And so she starts looking at the comic and notices that one of the ads for Mentallo's Sugar Flakes is missing the hunky guy that normally is in the ad, because it's like he got up and walked off the page. So yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. So there is your clue right there. So Ernest, in the meantime, is inside the manor, and he's looking around. He's going through every nook and cranny in the door, and he comes into Niles's bathroom. And this is where we get the disgusting scene of him plumbing the depths of the sink to get hairs from Niles' sink and eats them. Yeah. And then he passes out. Ugh. Niles, in the meantime, tells us via his journal that he's been in the cave for weeks. Yeah, I had to look away from that scene too. I actually had to hit the little 10-second fast forward button there because it was grossing me out. Niles has been in the cave for weeks, and he can walk again at this point. And he writes in his journal that the creature would be a crown jewel in the Bureau's collection if he can only get her to join him to go back to the world. And he goes back outside where the bodies are, and he starts digging in the snow and tells her that he's going to give a Christian burial to these men, that's what they deserve before he leaves. And she kind of sighs, grabs one of the bodies and drags it behind her, and he follows. Uh-oh. Great. Sorry about that. Had a little disconnection problem there. I don't know what happened, but hopefully everything is okay. Ooh. All right. Looks like I'm back. Hopefully. All right. Yeah. Hopefully I'm back here. Geez. There we go. I think I'm back now. Yeah. Geez. Sorry about that. Obviously my connection just all of a sudden crapped out for a second. So I think it's time for a new router. That's my next purchase is a new router. So yeah, he pounces on this fish, and like you said, Viking bitch, he could have eaten that thing. He could have put it in the fire right there. He could have cooked it, but no, he just ate it raw. And so he goes out and he's yelling at her, saying that he's going to bury these bodies, these frozen bodies, making a Christian burial. And she kind of sighs at him, grabs one of the bodies, starts dragging it behind her to this clearing. He follows her, and he sees these kind of like almost like Stonehenge, these stone, these big stone things that are set in the ground in a big circle, and they have paintings on them, and it's telling the story of her tribe. And he deduces that her tribe is tens of thousands of years old. So, am I buffering again? So there we go. Maybe I am buffering. Who knows? Back from the job. Yeah. No. It's the LAN cable is plugged in and everything, and she's asleep. So good. All right. So he notices the petroglyphs that are painted on these stones, and there used to be a bunch of them, and then she's now by herself. But he surmises also that she is pretty much immortal, that she's living forever here. In the meantime, she's been building a funeral pyre for the two hunters, and for the bodies, and puts them on there. And then she cuts his bonds free because his hands have been tied this entire time. And she cuts his hands free so he can light the funeral pyre. and then she starts doing like a little chant. She chants a name, and he does it as well. And we see the wolf creature appear. So it's a body of a bear, the head of a wolf with deer antlers on its head. And yeah, it comes out and joins them, and joins them in the funeral prayer, I guess you could say. And very interesting how this happens. So we see Ernest wakes up, or the beard hunter wakes up, tied to a chair with Rita and Vic looking down at him, and they're questioning about why he's looking for Niles, and he tells them that the Bureau has sent him to look for Niles at this point. And he says now that he's consumed Niles's essence, and even Vic is grossed out by all of that, that he can basically find him anywhere in the universe, that he can track him down because he knows what Niles's essence is now. And he's also very fixated on Vic's facial hair. Vic has a little bit of scrub of facial hair, and yeah, he's a little bit salivating at this thing. And it's also kind of ironic he can't grow any facial hair. So yeah, he has a little bit of a condition where he can't grow any facial hair at all. So just as Vic and Rita, are kind of they're kind of pissed at him now. They're done questioning him, and Vic turns around to leave, and we see a hair follicle come off of his face and fall to the ground. And of course, Ernest has seen this, and he's very fixated on it. In the meantime, we go back to Niles, and Niles has stayed to observe this woman, this creature. And one day he's actually, kind of running around her. He's taking notes, and he's running back and forth, and she says a word. And he's like, "What?" And we can hear ice cracking. And sure enough, he falls through the ice into the water, and she pulls him out. And we see him by the fire, and he's gotten very sick at this point because of falling into the ice. So he's getting ready pretty much to die at this point, and she nurses him back to health at the expense of actually getting sick herself. So they nurse each other back to health. And as they nurse each other back to health, they kind of fall in love. And that's Niles's big secret, is that he's got a secret girlfriend out in the forest there. She's got a beard. So yeah. I don't know if he killed her or ate her or something like that, Marks. I don't think so. I think they have a child together, is what I'm going to assume, because of all the hot bearded sex they've been having out there in the forest. Yeah, she kind of jumps him. Well, it's been a couple of thousand years since she's gotten laid, so obviously that's sci-fi already canceled hair hunters. Oh god, there's so many jokes I could go with that. I'm not going to. Um, I love Rita's line. All right, that gentleman is clearly a nut muffin. Is what she says to Vic, and I think I'm going to use that from now on. Is that someone is a nut muffin? So Rita suggests that they they can co-star with the beard hunter to find Chief, and Vic's like, "You mean team up?" And she's like, "Yes, whatever." And Vic says, "I've got a better idea." He goes, "See this little thing? It's a tracker." He goes, "We can put it on him, send him, out, and then we can just follow him when he finds, Chief." And Rita's very unimpressed with his tech that he's got. It's, a little square, and yeah, it was kind of a weird thing. And we see in the meantime that Ernest is basically trying to knock over his chair so he can get to that hair follicle. He knocks his chair over, slurps in Vic's facial hair, and then breaks free of his bonds. And Rita and Vic run into the room because they hear him breaking out of the chair. And he announces he knows who Vic really is. And also, of course, he knows who Niles really is as well. And Vic, of course, he tells Vic a little bit about himself, that he peed the bed until he was 6, that he killed his mom when he was 18. And this, of course, sets off Cyborg. And he tries to punch him and he goes, "You can't." He starts dodging all of Cyborg's punches because, as he says, the beard lets him connect straight into the cerebral cortex of the brain. So he knows what's going to happen before Cyborg does, pretty much. And yeah, he dodges everything, even dodges a kick from him and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, Vic's weapon systems activate. And Grid, who we can hear through Cyborg's, in his head, tells Vic that the host has been compromised and is initiating a total system control. What that means is the computer's taken over his body and it activates his hand cannon. And Vic is trying to stop it, of course, and the hand cannon explodes, knocking them all back in the room. The beard hunter grabs the stuff and goes running out of the room, and he stops in the hallway and again tells Vic that he knows who he and Niles Calder really are. That's what the beard does not lie. It lets him know everything about anybody. And he says he's not, I know everything about you and you're not going to like the truth, is what he tells Vic. And as Vic starts approaching Ernest again in the hallway, his systems activate again. And that causes Vic to actually have to do a total system shutdown. He has to turn off everything at this point. Otherwise, he's going to, blow up again, kind of thing, like he did. And the system basically just deemed it that it was necessary to take control from him. So after that, Rita goes over there and just tells Ernest to take off. She pushes him, says, "Get the hell out of here," because she realizes that Ernest is the one that's setting off Vic's systems at this point. Hand cannon, is that what they call it? Yeah, that's what it's called. It's called his hand cannon. That's what Cyborg's ability is there. So we go back to 1915 at this point, and Niles has decided to stay in the North, and years pass until one day he's outside skinning a deer, and he's talking, he's singing a song, and he hears a song being sung behind him. And we see Alistair appear with scars on his face. Alistair didn't die with those wolves. So he wasn't one of the hunters, because we only saw 2 hunters' bodies out there. So he wants to know how Niles survived. And he also fills in Niles that the Great War has begun and that the Bureau has changed and the mission has changed. As he says, odd is out and normal is in. And now they exterminate the abnormal. I'm not doing euphemisms at all about the hand cannon there. So Alistair wants to know how Niles survived, and Niles lies and says, he found the 2 hunters and they had their supplies, and he lived off of that and learned how to hunt, and he found shelter on all of this. And Alistair says, "Oh, that's good. So this has nothing to do with your hairy little girlfriend, huh?" And he says he's been tracking her, but he lost her at some point. And now he wants Niles to show him where the nest is, where her nest is. And he kind of implies that, Niles does not have a choice in this matter as he, handles his rifle. There's your other euphemism, Stanley. He handles his rifle. Rita, in the meantime, asks Vic what happened to him. And Vic says that ever since the reset button was pushed, something is wrong inside of him. He doesn't know what it is. And that's why he pretty much needs Chief to help him figure it out. And she goes, "Well, why don't you just ask your father?" And goes, "I don't trust my father. My father, if he comes in and tries to look at this thing, he's going to do a total systems control of me. And I don't want that." And then he tells Rita that he's trying to fix it. And he asks her not to tell the others because he doesn't want them to think that he's turned into the guy in the painting that Jane had. Yeah. So kind of fucked up now at this point. And Rita says that, well, you know what? We can still follow him. She goes, "I placed that tracker on the beard hunter when I pushed him away." And Vic's like, "Really? You did that?" And she's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, great." And just as they, they're committed to going and finding the beard hunter, excuse me, the others have woken up at this point. So they're out of Jane's mind. And I love, now we find out why Cliff said, "What the hell happened here?" Because Cyborg's hand cannon had gone off again and had actually taken out part of the lab where the rest of them were in their little fugue state there. So it just barely missed them, by the way. I forgot to mention that. So there's a bit of damage inside the lab there. And that's when we see the whole thing about Jane getting up, going to her room, and then asking, they ask Cliff what the hell happened, and he says, "That's not my story to tell." Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Marks. Rita is becoming a lot more caring for others. Well, she keeps seeing the baby image. I'm pretty sure there's something to do with the baby that she gave up or that died or something like that. And I'm pretty sure that's what's going to play into this as well. And Rita has actually gotten over the whole stuff that Mr. Nobody has done to them with her mind. She's the one that's actually, we've already seen this in a few episodes here and there, the last couple episodes, that she is the one that's actually gotten over all the mind fuckery that Mr. Nobody has done to her. So we see Alistair taking Niles at gunpoint to find the girl, and Niles is leading. He's up ahead, and of course, Alistair has his gun in his hand, and not Niles says, "That's kind of funny." He goes, that sound that you never hear coming, kind of thing, and we hear the cracking of the ice again. And Alistair says, "What is that sound?" And Niles says, "I believe the term is," and he says the native tongue word that his girlfriend had used there. And we see Alistair crash through the ice. And Alistair is floundering around in the icy water and says, "Help me, help me." And of course, Alistair says, "No." He goes, I can't let you find her. I can't let anybody else find her." And he lets Alistair die. He lets him drown. And then he pulls out his journal and he throws the journal in with him. And Alistair had also said that he had come with a bunch of, since the last time he came back with a whole bunch of men. So he's got a whole bunch of men out there in the forest as well. And Niles sees their fire out in the distance there, and he goes over to the camp there, holds his hands up, and then we see him back at the bureau mentioning that nothing odd happened out there, that it was just a tale of survival, that he found out a lot about himself, and nothing odd to report, no monsters out there or anything like that. And as everyone claps, "Good show, old man," we hear one clap in particular, and we look over, and it's Mr. Nobody in his fractured form. And we realize that this has all been Niles' memory of that event. And Mr. Nobody has been eavesdropping on this whole thing. And he tells Niles, he goes, "Those secrets were for nothing." He goes, "You can leave if you just answer one question. Where's the girl?" And he goes, "She's the secret to immortality that you've been seeking all this time." And Niles says, "I'm never going to tell you." He goes, "Well, the others will get destroyed if you don't do this." He goes, "If you tell me," he goes, "they won't be destroyed. You get to go home. Everything's good." And he goes, "I don't care about the others." Is what Niles says. "I really don't." And he goes, "But you can't have her." So that's where he refuses and lets it go. And he said, he even says, "You won't break me," is what he says. And that's when Mr. Nobody goes, "There's the Niles Calder I know." Yeah. Um, so in the meantime, the beard hunter finds a doorway. He opens it up, and we hear him leave a message for his mom on voicemail, and she calls back and leaves him a voicemail as well. And he's walking down these endless stairs. We see these stairs in a void, and he's walking down these stairs, and we get a sense that it takes a lot of time for him to get down these stairs. And he gets to the bottom, turns on his flashlight, and he sees what looks like Niles Calder sitting in a wheelchair off on the side there. And really, what it is, it's a life-size dummy of Niles Calder made out of canvas and buttons and things like that. And it talks and it goes, "Hey, are you here to play with me? That's a really snazzy costume." And then we hear a roar, and we see the wolf bear deer god behind the beard hunter, and it comes for him. He screams and drops his flashlight, and we see it spinning around. So he wasn't tracking Niles all this time. He was actually tracking the god, if you will. So yeah, that was a giant voodoo doll. Thanks, Viking Bitch. It was just a weird doll. And that's how the episode ends. So yeah. Viking Bitch says this will be the only episode I don't watch again, but I still love the show. Yeah, that one scene was pretty damn disgusting, I have to admit. So cold dude, but yet he was projecting his love, is what she says. What else do we have going on here? Let me go up into the chat before I was disconnected and everything. Viking Bitch says, I'm wondering how many bureaus there are. That's a good question. I'm wondering if the Bureau of Oddities survived in some form. I mean, we have the Bureau of Normalcy, but maybe the Bureau of Oddities still exists out there in one form or another. Maybe they went underground. We don't know. So that could be interesting. Stormy Scott says, "What? No Canadian Mountie? How can you show how can you do a show about the Yukon without one?" Well, it's out in the Yukon. It's they only have so much territory, and there's only one Mountie per thousands of miles of territory. So there we go. Yeah, that bone snapping noise was horrible, Viking Bitch. I have to admit that was pretty nasty. Let's see. Viking Bitch says the Beard Hunter was such a gross character. He is awkward in every way. He is. He's a man child, is really what he is. Let's see what else we got here. Viking Bitch says, I can't believe there are people that think this show is too woke and SJW. I believe these people have lost their minds. What? There are people. Okay. Yeah, this. Okay. So Danny the Street, gender queer, gender neutral pronouns, all that kind of stuff. That's because it's a fucking street. Okay. Yeah. I don't understand. Yeah, if people are have a bug up their butt about that kind of stuff, they can go fuck off. So they don't need to watch it. It's not a show for them then. At this point, let's see. Let's see after my disconnection there. That happened. Mufinobi says her tribe is eternal like Morks and Harry like Robin Williams on Propecia. Nice. Good one. Scuffle the Right by Viking Bitch says, so did he get his immortality from her because he stopped aging? Yeah. I don't know. I'm thinking that whole funeral that happened, that ritual with the god there, that was the ritual to make him immortal. That's what I'm thinking happened there. Because and that's what the beard hunter was tracking. He was tracking the god. He wasn't tracking Niles, even though he had grabbed Niles's beard, because they're one and the same now. The god resides within him, I think is what it is. So, because he's been inducted into the tribe, so the tribe, I guess, is immortal for the most part, unless they get killed off. That's what Slurmy ordered for dinner: warm nut muffins. Oh man. I'm thinking Vic has a lot of daddy issues too. So yeah, I don't think he's gonna get a hold of daddy. He really does need somebody to look at his systems, because his systems are pretty fucked up at the moment. A sculpture art by Viking Bitch said, I heard the street was taken directly from the comic, which is 20 years old. Yeah, it was. So yeah. Stormy Scott says, some people have an agenda and will twist anything to fit that agenda. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the ritual that made him immortal. I don't think he's eaten her or sex with her made him not. I think it was that he had lived with her long enough that was the whole thing of her like sighing and saying, okay, we're bringing the bodies out, we're going to do the ritual, you're going to become one of us. And she showed him basically where her tribe was, and that she was the last of her tribe. Mork says, I'm sold on that theory, Dennis, like getting the essence or souls or whatever from those nodules onto himself to make him immortal. Yeah. And like I said, I think that god, I know it has a name. I honestly I couldn't catch what she was saying, and that god, I'm believing resides in him as well as her. So that's why she was the only one that was left. That god was protecting her because it resided in her, and that's why she was immortal. Stanley Tweedle says, so he loves and protects his lady in the cold. What does that remind me of? I don't know. You're talking about Game of Thrones? Mufinobi says, Cyborg caught a beard virus. Even the best antivirus tools can't stop the beard hunter. Yeah. Yeah, only she survived and outlived her race. Excuse me, Mufinobi, but I believe the rest were killed off. And that's the reason why the guy was protecting her, was because it didn't want, she was the last of her kind, and he was residing in her, but at the same time all the others had gone off to go and do something, and might have gotten, from the expansion of people in Canada and all that kind of stuff. They probably killed off a lot of her tribe, all of her tribe. Not the first time that's happened in history. That's all I can say. Scuffle Art by Viking Bitch says, see, that's why I come here. I didn't catch the ritual made him immortal. Makes total sense. Thank you. I'm glad I can offer something. And like I said, that's what this is about, is I'm here to talk about this stuff. I like talking about this with all of you. I get ideas too from you guys in the chat, as well as offer my own as well. So yeah, I don't want to just kind of spew out this stuff and then, say, oh, well, that was a great episode. Just wait, there's gonna be another cold snap, Viking bitch. That's how it normally is up there in Minnesota. Mufinobi says, at least she believes in Jedi funeral pyres. I can dig it. Just a good barber on retainer. Just need a good barber on retainer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's into group funerals too, from what it looks like. That was what she needed to do. So if you like what you see here, hit the subscribe button. Also hit the like button down below. If you don't like what you see, hit the dislike button. I just asked that if you hit the dislike button, go down inside the comment section. Tell me what it is you don't like. Give me some constructive criticism. Not just that you suck, because that's not creative. So this is a metaphor for Canadian health insurance. No, Stanley Tweedle, I wouldn't believe so. It's a metaphor for Republican health insurance. There you go. You're on your own. So I also have my schedule up on suspendedfanimation.com. You can find my schedule there. My schedule is also on my Facebook page for Suspended Fanimation. You can find it there. I am on Twitter. I am on Instagram. And let's see, tomorrow night is going to be Game of Thrones. That's going to be Sunday night. Monday is going to be The Tick season 2, episode 3. Wednesdays is Happy, and Thursday is going to be the last episode of Gotham. And then after that is going to be iZombie. iZombie flips over to Thursdays on the 2nd of May. And Fridays, of course, is where Doom Patrol normally lives. I'm just happen to be doing it on Saturday because I wasn't feeling all that great yesterday. So Mufinobi says, I heard you suck. See, nice people suck. No. Nice, Viking Bitch. Now that I'm home, I can actually catch Game of Thrones live. Nice. Yeah, tomorrow night's episode is 58 minutes long, and then it jumps to the hour and a half episodes, like 80 minutes long, 90 minutes long, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I'm glad I'm on the West Coast and get the East Coast feed, because quite honestly, yeah, the late shit, can't do that. No, I'm getting old. I don't like staying up late anymore and doing that, unless there's alcohol involved, and then I'm no use to anybody after that. So Uh, I'm not even gonna touch that one, Slurmy. So if you're still on the fence about joining up, by the way, you're going to see a video pop up in this section. This is, of course, when it goes to a video. You're going to see this right now. You're not going to see it because I'm live. But when this turns to a video, you're going to see a video pop up here that's going to take a video from my video library that best suits your watching habits, and it's going to pop up there. And if you like what you see, then you can hit the little subscribe button that's over here. Orthodox Easter is next week, so that's when the real Easter is. All you other people can celebrate your fake Easter this week. There we go. All right. I just want to say thank you to everybody who joined me today. Sculpt Leather by Viking Bitch, Pen Farm Girl, Stanley Tweedle, Movie Fanopia, of course, Morks. Who else did I have in here? And I did say Stanley Tweedle. Yes, I did. So thank you all. I'm going to let you guys go. Again, take a look at the videos, hit the subscribe button. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, the Bureau of Normalcy may indoctrinate you and have you try and find Niles Calder, which isn't a good thing. See you, everybody. Have a good night.